Hello, this is Pam. Today we're going to be talking about, is it possible that ivermectin, the drug, it's an anti-parasitic drug, ivermectin could possibly be helpful in remyelinating nerve cells for people that suffer with multiple sclerosis. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Pam Bartha and I am the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. And I'm very excited to spend this time with you today. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Awesome. I'm excited to spend this time with you because we are looking for a cure for multiple sclerosis and all chronic disease. And when we see something in the scientific literature that suggests that we could have some repair to nerves that are being damaged by this horrible disease, then we definitely want to understand, is there a possible potential benefit here? Could this really help us? And if we haven't met yet, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 29 years ago, and I've been able to keep it in remission by really understanding some core principles, and I'll be sharing some of that with you later on. So I just wanted to say hi to a few people, make sure you guys can hear me. Hello, Alexander and Allison, and hi, Michael and Rob and Margaret. All right, so you guys can hear me, I'm sure. So the topic of ivermectin. I want to talk about it and kind of put it into context for us. And these Facebook Lives are really to discuss and to start thinking and talking about it, because that's the only way that we are actually going to get a cure and recover from MS. And I just want to thank you so much for your hearts and your love. And please, if I say something that means something to you, give me a thumbs up. Please share this video with people that are looking for answers. They may not suffer with MS. Maybe they're suffering with some other neurological disease or just chronic disease in general. But really understanding how our symptoms can be caused by various types of infections. So this is a study that was done in 2018. And when you try to read through it, it's really technical. So that's why I'm trying to just really simplify it down. And I'm not going to go into the really deep technical part about it, because I really don't believe it's very relevant to those of us that suffer with MS. But the exciting thing is that, probably for a different reason than what they thought, they found that ivermectin, which is an anti-parasitic drug, it actually has won, I believe, a Nobel Prize. It's a really important drug according to the World Health Organization around the world for various different types of parasitic infections. But this study, which was just done last year, the researchers suggest that this drug actually could promote the repair of the myelin sheath, the damage that's done with multiple sclerosis. So I want to say, first of all, that this study was done with animals. So it wasn't done with humans, and that's really important to understand. And those are the kind of things we're going to talk about today. And these researchers are saying, well, maybe ivermectin, it may be a potentially helpful drug in the future. A lot of the MS drugs, they do not repair the myelin, right? They're more changing how our immune system is working so that they're trying to avoid damage to the myelin, but it's not really repairing the myelin. And so in this case, like, why did they see this? The immune system becoming modulated because of the use of ivermectin. So things that we have to consider when we are talking about studying multiple sclerosis. How are they studying multiple sclerosis, right? And really what the biggest model for MS is this model called EAE, which is experimental autoimmune encephalomyelitis. All right, and so what that means is that they are taking specific mice, like there's lots of different types of mice, but there's specific mice that they will use, and they will inject them with antigens, so like different parts of central nervous system, but they will also inject them with mycotoxins, neurotoxins, I should say, not mycotoxins, but they could, but it's really toxins that will really damage nerves. And that's how they're studying multiple sclerosis. So when I see that, for this study, for example, they injected these mice with Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which produces a really strong toxin, which basically really is hard on a type of immune cell that works in the central nervous system. But they also added in pertussis toxin, which is a toxin from whooping cough. So then you think, well, geez, in this animal model, they're putting in to infectious agents or toxins from infectious agents. I wonder if that's consistent with what we know as wellness champions, that MS is caused by infectious agents for sure. But anyhow, so this is the model that they use for multiple sclerosis. And my question is that if we don't know, I mean, we do, but if the general science of MS, if they don't know what's causing MS, then how can we be sure that this model is a true model of what we're dealing with when we suffer with multiple sclerosis? And those of you that are wellness champions and you really understand this, you know that there are infections involved with multiple sclerosis, and there are various infections. There's not just one bug that's causing all of this nerve damage to us. So if we don't know what is causing MS, then how can we be certain that by just injecting these toxins and putting antigens from or little parts of the central nervous system in these mice, that's a true reflection of what's going on with multiple sclerosis? So that's my first biggest thing with the types of research that's being done. The second thing is that the research in the field of trying to find treatments, I should say, for MS is that we're not looking at the cause. We're always looking, and I shouldn't say always, but a lot of the research is looking at how can we change the immune system's response? How can we reduce the inflammation? Instead of saying, what's causing the inflammation, right? And thanks for all the hearts. That is such a huge aha, because if we don't shift gears, if we don't start going to the cause, and we're constantly trying to alter the immune system, like we're treating the immune system like it's just gone haywire, it's attacking the tissue, it doesn't know what it's doing, it's not intelligent, instead of like, why is this inflammation here? What is causing it? And so that is a really, in my view, that's a really big hindrance of why we haven't come up with a cure yet. Because a lot of the research, like a lot of the newer disease-modifying drugs, what they're doing is they are, preventing our immune cells from going into our central nervous system. They are suppressing, let's say, our lymphocytes in our lymph nodes, locking up the soldiers in camp so they can't go out to fight, or just suppressing different types of cells. Maybe it's our B cells, another division of the immune system. So that is a huge problem, all right? So this whole study, the way they went about it is like really looking at the immune system and what could modulate, and maybe ivermectin could modulate the immune system so that inflammation would go down, so it would prevent inflammation and we would have myelin repair. But what if it's as simple as ivermectin is an anti-parasitic drug? We're maybe dealing with some of the infection we're dealing with is actually treated by ivermectin quite well, not all of them, and please hear me on this. Ivermectin is not a cure for MS. That's the truth. Because if it was, I would be telling you, but it is not. But it is one of the anti-parasitic drugs that's really helpful in treating the infections that are involved with MS. So what if it's as simple as this anti-parasitic drug they're using is starting to knock back some of the infection that is causing this inflammation, and then all of a sudden, with a little less inflammation, we're starting to see the body is starting to repair itself. Myelin repair happens when the body is repairing itself. Like our body knows how to repair itself if we support it properly. I'm a girl that just believes in common sense, and all of this is common sense to me. And it's not just common sense, but it is validated through the successes of the wellness champions. And some of you are wellness champions on the call right now. So we're having incredible successes with people treating infection. And what we've learned over this past year is that MS is largely a parasitic infestation, largely. And yes, ivermectin is one of the drugs that's very often helpful, but on its own, it's not enough. And the drugs by themselves are not enough. We have to use a holistic approach. But if we do the right things, people are recovering, which is exciting. So let's go back to what we do know. Number one, what we do know is that MS is an infectious disease. And if you don't believe me, maybe you're like, what, Pam, how do you know that? I've never heard that before. That's not part of our mainstream science. Then I would encourage you to visit my website, livediseasefree.com/ ms-infections. So that's livediseasefree.com/ms-infections. All right, and when you go there, with an S at the end, when you go there, I have put a small, which is pages, of studies, peer-reviewed studies that link multiple sclerosis with various types of infections. So fungal overgrowth. For many years, we've known that fungal overgrowth is present in not just MS, but all different types of chronic disease. We know that there's more and more research showing that parasitic infections are involved also. We're going to talk about those in a minute because we're going to link it back to ivermectin. And we know that the vector-borne infections associated with Lyme disease are also really involved with diseases, all kinds of neurological diseases, including multiple sclerosis. So and yes, viruses could be active, but I honestly believe that they are kind of like the last ones to become active. When your immune system is just taxed with all these parasites, big ones, and we've seen tons and tons. I probably have close to, I'd say, at least 75 pictures of parasites that myself and many of my students have passed at least. Then you start to go, oh my gosh, I get it. It's drilled home here. So that is the big thing, is number one, we know that MS is a parasitic infection. And we also know that ivermectin is a medication that treats parasites. And just last year, I discovered, but this was research from 2014, but Dr. Alan McDonald, he is a very well-respected pathologist. He was asked actually by a lady that was one of the wellness champions, and she's a pre-med student, and she was doing research and finding these little tiny worms in her blood and also in another person's blood, tiny nematodes or nematodes, however you want to pronounce it. And she went up to him at this conference and said, could you please check the spinal fluid and the central nervous system of people that have MS to see if those worms are there? So he did that, and he did a study, and I've got that video. It is on Vimeo. It's on the livediseasefree.com /MS-infections page, which is called Evidence That Multiple Sclerosis is an Infectious Disease. So if you go on that page and you go down to parasites, you will see a direct link to his video there. Watch it. It is so exciting. So the key is that he looked at 10 specimens of people that have died of multiple sclerosis. And in every single person that he looked at, there was evidence of many, many parasitic worms, the little nematodes. So not in one of them, not in 50%, not in 70%, but in every single one of them. That's a pretty big coincidence. So then you think, wow, that's pretty fascinating. When you look in animals, when we look at what the veterinarians are doing with animals, what they know for the last approximately 100 years, they've known that when these little tiny parasitic worms, they're like really small, the size of the dot of a pen, when they work their way into the central nervous system of domestic animals, they have symptoms identical to multiple sclerosis. Identical. They have extreme fatigue. They have blindness. They have balance issues. They have weakness in their limbs. They have numbness. They have paralysis. It's like so many symptoms the same. It's like crazy. Like, how have we not made that connection? That's like common sense. It's like, if these worms can be passed from animals to humans, which they can, science knows that, and if they have all those symptoms identical to multiple sclerosis, could it be that we that suffer with MS, that is one of the parasites that many of us are dealing with? And so we went to work, and with our students, they are working with practitioners, but they're being coached in the Live Disease Free Academy. And we have found that for the vast majority of the students that suffer with MS, that ivermectin is really helpful. Does it cure them by itself? No. If it was, I would tell you for sure. And so this is where you have to work with somebody when you are dealing with these types of infections, and you also have to use a holistic approach. We found that the pharmaceuticals on their own are not enough, but bringing them in to the treatment and working like a layering of treatments, because by the time we have Parkinson's, MS, ALS, PLS, multiple sclerosis, we have this condition called dysbiosis. We are really out of balance. So we have parasites. And our students are passing parasites anywhere from, you know, like small thread worms all the way up to over 2 foot long worms, lots of them. I have passed tons of worms myself also, because now I know how to get them out of my system from what I've learned with the students. And so flukes, that's another thing. I didn't even know what a fluke was before, but I've seen lots of pictures and I have passed flukes also. And there's all kinds of different, so there's big worms, there's these little nematodes which we can't see. There are single-celled parasites like Babesia. There's different bacterial infections like various ones that follow with the Lyme disease like Borrelia, etc. And so this is what chronic disease is. It is a collection of infections, and that is why we are seeing that ivermectin is helpful, because it is helping to relieve, in some people that have these little parasitic nematodes, and maybe other ones too, but it's an anti-parasite drug, so it is going to treat specific parasites. And that's why it is not a cure for everyone, because it's not going to cure all the different types of parasites. Parasite drugs, they work on specific groups of parasites. And the sicker we are, we're seeing that very often that students have to work with several anti-parasitic drugs, but we always do it safely, bring it in, you know, one at a time, very safely, so that, and working with their practitioner, right, to make sure that they're safe. And that's why I can't give medical advice on these calls, because I don't know if you have, you know, big tapeworms or a tapeworm, or if you have flukes, or if you have roundworms, or if you have thread worms, or all of them, all of the above, or little nematodes in your central nervous system. But I can tell you from experience working with so many students that people that have chronic disease, the sicker you are, the more infested with parasites you are. And I see this with the students. And some students can, you know, the sooner you catch it, the sooner you get that label and turn it around and start to treat them, the faster you can recover. But the sicker we are, it takes more work, but we can still recover in months, not years. And we are learning more and more with this all the time. And we have a practitioners area. We are sharing our insights. We are collaborating with practitioners, because this is so new for everyone. We have not had good tests that show us these parasites. I knew I had parasites. I grew up on a farm. I've always been really slim. I would get stomach aches, right, as a young child. And what really was a big nail in the coffin for me is I was on tetracycline for months, which really wiped out my good, whatever I had left of a good ecosystem in my intestines, really allowed those parasites to flourish, including fungal overgrowth, which is another type of parasite. But that's how we become more and more infested over the years. And it's crazy how, and we're going to talk about this next week more, about how these parasitic worms and just parasites in general, how they make us sick, because there's a lot of confusion out there. Some of you may have been watching this really awesome documentary series that was out, but they were talking about how it could be really helpful to give people that have MS the pig tapeworm, or not tapeworm, but the whipworm. It's not a good idea. Again, why are they talking about this? It's like, well, when you give people this whipworm, it produces molecules that suppress their immune system. Is that what you want? No. Do you want to just suppress the inflammatory immune response, or do you want to deal with the cause? Do you want to clean up the mess and live an amazing life? That is what I would suggest to do. It's just like sometimes we will, I know one of a person that I met before, they went and had leech treatment where you can actually have leeches stuck on you, and they, again, will put certain compounds into you and relieve your pain while you have the leech stuck on you. And then once you're done, then you have your pain back again. It's the same thing with the pig whipworm. It's not the answer. It's not the answer. So you guys type in all your questions. Make sure to share this video and we're going to have lots of discussions about this, because we need to create awareness. We need to go back to common sense. We need to go, and it's not that complicated. It's just infections, and we need to treat them. So I'm going to go to your questions. I'm just going to see if there was any last thing I wanted to share. No, I think I've covered it all. But basically, the only way we are going to have a cure is if we treat the cause. There's no amount of immune suppression, it's not even modulation, it's immune suppression. That's what we've been doing. Thanks for all the love and the hearts. There is no amount of immune regulation, like as if we're so smart that we can regulate our immune system and that we're smarter than our body is a miracle. We don't even understand how it works, a very small part of how it works. So how can we be so foolish to say, oh, our immune system is attacking itself, we've got to shut it down, and then we end up with all kinds of other problems. So let's go to your questions and comments here. Thank you for all your love. And you guys are the wellness champions. Help us get this word out. Help us just get people to start thinking. It's crazy, but I speak to people at least a couple of times a week. And I always ask them, is this the first time you've ever heard that MS is caused by an infection? And they'll say, yes, this is the first time ever. And this would be even healthcare professionals. It's crazy. 30 years ago, I learned this. I didn't know what I know now. I didn't understand about the parasitic infestation, but I definitely knew that infection was, and that's how I've been able to live MS free. It wasn't just something I cured myself a long time ago. Hi, Diane. You're not understanding. MS is linked to parasite worms. Yes, it sure is. And that is part of the problem. So what I would do if I were you, Diane, is make sure to go to the page livediseasefree.com/MS-infections with an S, and look at all the different types of infections that are associated with MS. And this is what our students are doing, is they're treating not just parasites, not just parasitic worms, but fungus and possibly the vector, the Lyme type infections also, but hugely parasites, huge. Watch Dr. Ellen McDonald's talk there and learn about those tiny little nematodes. Watch my 5 or 6 part series on YouTube about MS and infectious disease, where I show pictures of some of the worms that our students are passing. To be clear, the very large worms that are 1 foot to 2 feet long, they are not necessarily the worms that are causing the symptoms associated with chronic neurodegenerative diseases. But we do know that these worms produce a lot of different chemicals, and they definitely make us feel worse in many different ways. They also have heavy metals in them. But a really big thing that is not considered is that a lot of these bigger parasites, they have their own microbes in their body, and every time they're eating our food, making us deficient, they are putting their waste into us. They are infecting us with different types of infections, bacterial infections, small parasites. This is well documented even with what Dr. Alan McDonald has found when he found those little tiny worms in the brain, the spinal fluid especially, of people that suffered with MS. They died of MS. He looked inside those worms, and even though they're the size of a dot of a pen, like with the microscope or the special, they use DNA fluorescent coating, so it basically, this green dye will attract to the DNA of Borrelia. They found that these worms actually carried Borrelia, which is Lyme disease, into the central nervous system of people that suffer with MS. So just think of these big worms, 1 foot to 2 feet to 6 inches. They are, and even smaller, these tiny little nematodes, they are infecting us with all kinds of things. So if we get a high level of parasites, they're constantly infecting us with different microbes. They truly are. And that's another reason why you don't want the pig whipworm in you, for sure, because it will carry its own microbes and it will make you, it's crazy. We're going to talk about that next week, about how it makes people feel when they were doing this with the experiment. It's really quite gross, I think. So Diane, go and start to watch the videos and make sure to watch Dr. Alan McDonald's video. You can probably find him on, well, it's probably easiest just to go on my page, because otherwise you could go to Vimeo and you'd have to type in Dr. Alan McDonald, MS, and worms or something like that. You could try and find it there. But I've got a direct link on that page. Hi, Celia. And, okay. Did your doctor prescribe it? Did you bring it up with him or her? That's a really good question. Our medically trained, I'm in Canada, and I love our medical doctors. They really want to help us here. But the problem is they have never been trained in treating parasites, and our tests, our stool tests, are terrible. So I have had parasite tests done on different occasions and nothing showed up. I think Blastocystis hominis showed up, which is a tiny little single cell parasite, which is usually a consequence of the other parasites. So they infect us again with all of these different types of smaller parasites. And I was treated and I didn't notice any difference, and that was it. And the most, you guys just gave me a bunch of thumbs up and love hearts. So you understand that. You may have been tested for parasites. Maybe you've had stomach aches in the past and nothing showed up. So the doctors and the medically trained doctors, their hands are tied, because they are not allowed, especially in Canada and probably in your country too, they're not allowed to just prescribe things at this point. They have to have evidence, right? They have to be responsible. They have to have evidence that you have parasites. That's the dilemma that we have. So this is where we are being very creative, and we are working with different integrative practitioners, and depending on states and provinces and countries, we're working in, I would say close to, or at least 15 countries now. And every country is different. And so I've got all kinds of creative ways to help them to find practitioners or to have access to the proper treatments that they need. But it is pioneer work right now. It totally is. But the exciting thing is that, you know, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be the pioneer. Somebody has to be the trailblazer. That is what the wellness champions do. So I just wanted to say too, as I carry on, is that, you know, if this is the first time you found me and you're just like, Pam, this sounds to be too good to be true, like that there is an answer, that I can treat specific concrete things like infection and I can get my life back, it is true. But if you're just like, I'm a little skeptical, watch some of my videos. I have so many videos on YouTube, Live Disease Free, on Facebook, Live Disease Free, subscribe to YouTube, and that way you'll keep getting these wonderful trainings, so that and a lot of people have said, Pam, I've watched so many videos, I've implemented so much, I'm starting to feel a lot better, I'm ready to go to work. I want to treat those infections. And if you're at that place, then reach out to us. I've got a free masterclass training you've got to listen to first. And if you're at the place where like, Pam, I want to work, I want to be a wellness champion, I want to be in the academy, then you can fill out the proper form and we'll take care of you, and you can get started right away. We have people joining all the time, every week, to work on this. And it's a 3-month step-by-step plan to, number 1, stop feeding the infections, number 2, support the body, number 3, start to treat the infections. And the treatment, because when we have chronic disease, we are infested. I'm not kidding you, we are infested. I totally get it, because myself, being MS-free, I have passed a ton of worms. It's quite shocking. Like, I knew I had them, but I didn't know I had that many, and it's really shocking. And it helps me to really understand, like, if I feel this great, but I still had them, how horrible the wellness champions feel when they come and they are quite disabled with different types of disease. So that is, in a nutshell, is that this is pioneer work, and it is coming, but there's not a lot of practitioners that understand this yet. All right, and hi Trina, hi Dan. You just found out that you have MS, so clueless about this. I am so happy that you found me, Trina. So what you're going to do is, you're at a crossroad right now, right? It's kind of like, it's really scary at first, and maybe you don't even know what MS really is. I didn't when I was first diagnosed. I just knew it was a horrible disease. So either you're going to take the standard of care path, and you'll find very soon that there is no cure, that the disease modifying drugs, they don't work. Let's put it that way. The only reason they don't work is because, as I mentioned in the beginning, is that they're focused on suppressing the immune system. Whether they're giving you chemotherapy, they won't do that at the start, but whether they're locking up your lymphocytes, etc. I shared that at the beginning of the call. Or you're going to treat infections, right? Or you're going to start going down that path and you'll say, oh, this isn't working, and then you're going to start treating infections. But I would really encourage you to do your homework, do your research, figure it out. We're here for you. We have a step-by-step plan. And the exciting thing is that when people catch chronic disease early and reverse it early, if they implement really well, then within 2 to 3 months, they are symptom-free and they are back to their life. And you just close this chapter of your life, bury it down deep, and just go on with your living. But remember, you have to do the right steps. There are many things you can do. There are many eating plans. There's exercise. None of that's going to work if you don't do the right steps and treat the infections also. That is really important. So happy to serve you. So make sure to watch my masterclass training, watch a bunch of my videos on YouTube, reach out when you're ready. Hi, Katie. Hi, Marissa, or Melissa, Mariana, Selma. At the same time, some are using parasites. Yes, that's just exactly what I was talking about. And that is a tricky word. To me, modulating, I'll just tell you what her question is. She said, at the same time, some are using parasites to modulate the immune system. Okay, so modulate the immune system. So for me, I have a different, I know that a lot of times we use that word. Thanks for all the love. You guys get it. Are we truly modulating the immune system? Modulate means that you bring an underactive immune system up, you bring an overactive immune system down. But the true way to modulate it is to take away the factors that are basically taxing it, right? So toxicity, nutritional deficiencies, and infection. When you clean that up, your immune system just goes back to normal. It goes back to where it is supposed to be. That is true immune modulation. When you bring in these big parasites, like let's say a pig tapeworm, right? Or not, I keep saying tapeworm, but they're calling it the whipworm, but maybe they'll use tapeworms too. But the whipworm, when you bring that in, that worm is going to produce compounds that are suppressing the inflammatory immune response. So you're going to have less fighting of the immune system, but it is an artificial. It's not that your immune system is like, oh, there's no problem here. It's like suppressing it. So when you take that whipworm out, because it's giving you such terrible gut issues, then you have your symptoms again. It is not an answer. But what they're hoping to do is they're hoping to look at the pig whipworm, see what chemicals it's producing that's changing your immune system, like suppressing it, modulating it, which is not a healthy modulation as far as I'm concerned. And then they can sell it as a drug, right? And then you can take it forever because you'll never be done with your infections because it's not treating your infections. And what we see is that if you keep these infections and you suppress your immune system, in time, you become more and more disabled. And that's why they don't work, because it's the infections that are causing your symptoms and you're not dealing with them. So you will still progress to disability if you don't treat the cause. All right, great question there. Hi, Naji. Hi, Diana. Hi, Oksana. Thank you, Danielle. Danielle posted the link to my free masterclass training. If you haven't watched it yet, make sure to do, because it'll be hugely inspirational to you. And that's if you're interested in looking for a plan. Let's see if I can, okay, I went to the top there. I think that's it. Oh no, here we go. Hi, Cheryl. It is treating a symptom and not the solution. That's right. That's exactly. So the immune system is fighting infection. And what we're doing with the drugs is we're suppressing the soul, like your immune system, they're your soldiers, right? And the infection is like the bad guys. So what we're doing with these drugs, and even with the pig whipworm, is we're suppressing the soldiers in various different ways. But the enemy is still there, and the enemy just continues to take on more territory in our body, and different enemies move in because your immune system is now more suppressed. Then we end up with several disease labels in time, not just MS, but it could be MS and epilepsy, MS and diabetes, cancer, arthritis, you name it. In time, we could have 3 to 5 diseases, and many of you have come to me with 3 to 5 diseases. Not just MS. MS is not just a standalone disease all by itself all the time. It is, again, it just depends which microbes you have out of balance, where they are, etc. So Celia, what do I think of Mimosa Pudica? So Mimosa Pudica, the herbs, and that's one of the herbs, and I think that the way it works is it kind of paralyzes some of the worms. We have found in our students that are dealing with chronic disease, it's not strong enough. It's not enough. A lot of times what we will do is we will use the anti-parasitic drugs with oxygen type therapy, oxidative therapies, plus bring in some herbs together. And it's a combination, but it's also, if you keep feeding them it makes it really hard to treat them. So we have to decrease the food to them. And I talk all about that on free videos on YouTube, like decreasing the carbs, because that's what they love. And just lots of healthy vegetables, lots of nutrition, feed the body, greatly reduce the food to the infections, support the body, right? Making sure you're getting the toxins out, making sure your nutrition is optimal, cleaning up the environment, making sure you're sleeping, doing a lot of things to build yourself up, looking at your symptoms, and then starting to treat. And we found that in the treatment phase, and this has been a huge discovery for us, is that when we use the anti-parasitic drugs, they are tolerated a lot better by very sensitive people that are very sick, and they work so much faster because they're more effective. The herbs, I love them for things like fungal overgrowth or the vector-borne infections associated with Lyme disease. Again, we don't treat Lyme until we've gotten the parasites way, way down. Same thing with fungus. It's hitting the parasites. Stop. Hit the fungus. Hit the parasites. Hit the fungus. Several times until you have that so low that you're pretty much symptom-free. If you did have Lyme disease, then you would be treating the Borrelia, Babesia, Bartonella, all of those ones. And through herbs is really great then. Again, using a layering of different therapies. So Cheryl is wondering, yes, I got that. Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Calvin. Oh, awesome. You are Michael's mom. He is such an amazing wellness champion. So Trina is saying, I'm supposed to start IV infusions in 2 weeks, scared to death. So you really need to do your homework. You really need to do, I've got tons of videos, just go through them, look at that MSs, and you know, if you're ready, reach out to us. You can get started right away. I also help people. I don't tell you what to do. I'm not a medically trained practitioner, so I do not go in that area because that's not my expertise. They are. So everything I give you is for educational purposes only. But when you learn all of this, then you feel confident and you're not scared anymore. You know the direction that you need to go. It gives you peace, and that is truly what you need so that you can make an informed decision. Tammy, you're in Texas, and it's so hard to get a doctor to even listen to you in natural treatments. Yes, absolutely, that's true. But we have students in Texas that are recovering, absolutely, which is so cool. Hi, Jill. Hi, Patricia in Australia. Hi, Allison. The MS Society invested $1.2 million into gut bacteria causing, yes. So even the MS Society, and I think this was in 2015, thanks, Allison, they actually are researching, and there are different, some of my students, they have neurologists that are professors at universities, and they're studying the gut microbiome. But by the time they find an answer, it's going to be years. So you might as well treat the infections now. Help us bring change. Become a wellness champion. Help us bring change. All right, so healing the gut will stop disease progression, and it will bring a lot of recovery, possibly becoming symptom-free. Yes, absolutely. So Cheryl, if you want to be a wellness champion, what you do is you just go down and watch my masterclass training after we're done here. We're almost done. And once you've watched that, if you're like, I'm ready for a step-by-step plan, then you can reach out to us. You can literally start within less than a week, and you can start laying the foundation. We don't start treating right away, but laying the foundation to treat. And then you can start treating within 2 to 4 weeks. But we first have to do some things to lay a really solid foundation, so you're going to have a lot of I should say, so that you will have a lot of success. If you keep feeding them and you're trying to treat them, it's so frustrating. It's just not worth it. But it's gold. I promise you it's golden, like what we're doing. It's amazing. I get so fired up because I've seen these parasites, not just in my students, but also in myself too. So I just wanted to share, because I always love to share fresh, new successes from the students. And this one is from Allie, and she's a wellness champion in the class right now. So she shared, my MS is in remission. And so she's dealing with very significant MS, like a fair bit of disability, having it for quite a few years, really impacting her a lot. She actually, when she started working with me, she had a very strong immunosuppressive drug put into her central nervous system. And through like doing all the prep and laying all the foundation and educating herself, she went to her doctor and said, you know, on a subsequent time to have it, she said, I don't want to have it anymore. And these are the reasons. So I teach you how to talk. And this is very, it's between you and your practitioner. It has nothing to do with me. So she was ready for that, and she did that. And he was like, well, I don't know, we'll see. And then I don't know how much later, but he actually did a test on her spinal fluid. And he said, your spinal fluid looks really good. It looks like there's basically no disease activity going on. So I'm okay with you not taking an immunosuppressive drug. That is huge. So she, by what she has done, the hard work she's done, the disease activity in the central nervous system has decreased so much that he's like, I'm okay with you like not taking an immunosuppressive drug. And he's very traditional with that. So she is a pioneer. She is a trailblazer. So he's probably like, I don't know, this is a one-off. Maybe, you know, she's just, it's in spontaneous remission. That's sometimes what they say. But as we have more and more wellness champions going to this practitioner, he's going to start to scratch his head. And what she shared is, what I just wanted to share some of her words here. So I am forever grateful for you helping me to put multiple sclerosis in remission. This was confirmed in a message that I received from my doctor telling me that there's no disease activity. There's no real disease activity in my spinal fluid, and he's okay with me not taking the immunosuppressive drug at this time. That drug, one of the adverse effects is cancer. Like, what is worse, MS or cancer? So bringing this to the forefront is paramount, she shared. Colon health is most important for our condition. Furthermore, I have never supported my body in this manner. I have never been so proud of myself for working so hard on my recovery. Thanks to you and your teachings, I now know that I have a plan for life. And another fun thing that I got, there's other, I just wanted to share a couple quick ones because we're almost out of time here, but I got a beautiful picture from one of my graduates from 2015, her at the finish line. So this is a young mom, Sarah, who beat MS in 2015, and she has taken up running. And she just ran, she ran a 10K last year. She did her best time. I got this on Friday. She did 10K in 1 hour and 2 minutes. Yay, Sarah. You guys give her a big cheer. That's amazing. And there's a picture of her with a big smile going over the finish line. Yeah, she beat MS because of her hard work. And I'm so incredibly honored to support Wellness Champions. So last couple of questions, and I'm going to let you guys go here. Hi, Ronnie. Hi, Lisa from Alberta. Hi, Sophia. Maureen. It's hard to find a good doctor who's willing, and I help you in the program for sure, because it is. And it's, they're just not trained in this. It's like if you go to an electrician and you talk to him about plumbing, he'll be looking at you like, I'm sorry, that's just not my expertise. And unfortunately, our doctors have not been trained in this. It's not that they don't want to help us. It's like, that's just not their expertise. It's like you can't get a plumber to do electrical work, right? That's how we have to think and understand. But there are a small number, and especially the integrative practitioners. And there's ways to get around this and to do it safely and properly, but that's where I help the students with that also. Hi, Michael. You learned something new. I'm so glad. So this is the key, is that when we recover, this is part of the recovery process, is really understanding that we have to use our gut instinct. We have to be trusting what is common sense to us. We have to, because very often it is, we have lost common sense. We're just like, oh, MS is a mystery. There's no cure. There's no answer. Yeah, okay, we'll just take all these drugs. And we have to, like many of you, when I tell you it's infection, you're going, that makes so much sense, right? And so we have to use common sense. We have to listen to our body. We have to learn the simple, basic principles of how to, number one, recover, and then how to stay well, and how to, down the road, like now that I have been clearing these worms, I've got to do a couple more cycles because I've been since a young child. And then it's like once a year, maintenance, prevention, right? So that's the key, is to learn the principles of how to, number one, take charge of your health, how to recover, and how to live a beautiful, long, healthy, and happy life like I have. And what an amazing life. Like 29 years, I've got 2 grandkids now, and I'm so incredibly grateful. So if you're at that place and you're looking for a plan, make sure to watch my masterclass training, and then you can chat with us and you can get started right away in the Live Disease-Free Academy. Otherwise, if you just like, oh, this is all new and exciting, watch my videos and start implementing, start feeling better. I love you guys, and I will be back next week. Next week, we are going to talk about how parasitic worms make us sick, because that's really going to help you as we are finding more and more of this information coming out, like, yeah, we should give ourselves a tapeworm or a whipworm. You'll be going, I don't think so. I don't think that's a good idea. All right, so I want to help you guys, and also I'll be talking about a lot of the chemicals they produce and where we're finding them. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-blowing when you start to see all of this, and it's just so simple. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go, and we will talk to you next week. Take care and bye-bye for now.